Ocarina of Time is a game that I really love. It was not the first game I ever played that would go to Twilight Princess, which is just edgy Ocarina of Time, but, semantics. But Ocarina of Time is a masterclass in storytelling, design, it's an amazing game. And rightfully so, it's still the number one rated game on some website. I forget the one, but it is the most regarded game of all time. That sounds like such a meme thing to say now these days, like the game of all time. Despite the praise the game deserves, admittedly, the dungeons are what I love the most in Zelda games, and I think they are exquisite here. Some of the best in the series, I'd say, but they're also some of the fucking worst. So I wanted to rank them because YouTubers love tier lists, and I love tier lists too. I'll let you know that there will be some spoilers for Ocarina of Time in this game, maybe some slight spoilers for other Zelda games. I don't know, I'm just kind of freeballing this. So let's get into our lowest ranking. Now, shocking the world, the last place spot is not the goddamn water temple. It's surprising, I know, heresy even, but I think Jabu-Jabu is worse. As a concept, this dungeon isn't the worst. It's really fetishy. It's basically just vor, but you do you, Nintendo. But it's such a bad dungeon. It's so poorly executed. It's the most boring, awful, unfun part of the game, in my very humble opinion. I find myself dreading going to this fucking dungeon every time I'm playing the base game or in a randomizer, which I'm a big fan of randomizers. I don't know if I mentioned that, but that's gonna be part of my rankings, or included in my opinion for the rankings. But yeah, Jabu-Jabu is the worst fucking dungeon in the game, still. It's crazy how it works like that. There's nothing redeeming about this dungeon other than maybe the music. It's decent, and I won't be talking about bosses in this video because I gotta make another video on bosses. I gotta exploit, capitalize, Baronade could not save this dungeon, however, I think it is one of the... No, it's the best child boss, but this dungeon is so unfun. It's so bad. It's so much worse than Water Temple in every way, in my opinion, except length, I suppose, because you can complete this in about 10 minutes if you know what you're doing. Even then, you might not know what you're doing because it's just such a weird dungeon. Anyway, I'm done, I promise. Let's move on to our next one. Next, I would have to say that the Deku Tree is the second worst dungeon in the game, and I know, it's the beginner dungeon, you can't be that hard on it, but it's so boring. It's not, offensively bad, like Jabu-Jabu, in my opinion, but I think it is just very dull. It's even faster to beat, which, that's fine. It's the beginner dungeon. I'll give it that, but it's pretty boring. The aesthetic's kind of decent, going inside a big living tree. It's a decent idea, but it's as bland as you can get. It's your generic forest temple, just the first time they did it, so they didn't have anything super cool for it. So yeah, I think it's probably the second worst dungeon. Now, for my next pick, I think that Bottom of the Well is the third worst dungeon, and it might be because I have played so many randomizers where I've either gotten completely screwed from Bottom of the Well or screwed over from going and spending time there and getting nothing in return. But I played through all these dungeons recently on Ship of Arcadian. That's why the game looks so beautiful for you all. But it's an alright dungeon. I thought I liked it more than I did. I don't. It's just not very fun. It's not bland or boring like the other two. It's just that it feels like Shadow Temple Mini. So, it's only decent in my opinion, but I did think it was better than, the last two, because it's not a bad dungeon in my opinion. I just think it's pretty boring. for like the aesthetic it has compared to the other two, which had pretty mid ones. This one's pretty decent, but obviously it gets used in the Shadow Temple, which is a much stronger dungeon. So it's just, if you get mad at me for this one, just wait until I rank Shadow. Now look, I don't like the water dungeon more than anyone else. That's a lie, actually. I do, because it's fourth here, or whatever the reverse order is. It's the fourth worst in my opinion, but I don't think it's that bad. Anything past Bottom of the Well, I don't think are bad dungeons anymore. I just think they're kind of mid. And the Water Temple isn't that bad. Now, admittedly, I'm giving the little asterisk, the little star in this, because if you are playing on original N64, yeah, it's pretty bad. But if you're playing on something like Ship of Arcanian or any other, emulator to play Ocarina of Time that you legally can play, of course, and you have the option to use the D-pad as items, I think this dungeon is pretty fun, actually. And I know, heresy, put me on the stake, but I think this is a pretty fun dungeon, and people, blow it out of proportion. Because, yeah, it probably sucked back in the day, but nowadays, I didn't even know what I was doing. I took the longest time in here, probably 45 minutes to an hour, but I still had a good time. Now, if Morpho was in this would be an instance of the dungeon going down a lot, but regardless, I think that Water Temple is a solid temple. They improve it in Twilight Princess, and I don't know about Majora, but for a first try, I think it's pretty decent. Not bad, pretty fun sometimes, if you're playing with the D-pad items. Otherwise, I don't know. Now, this might be a bit of a surprise for you, but I don't really like Spirit Temple. Well, it's not that I don't like it, it's just that I don't think it's as good as it could have been. I think it's pretty boring, maybe because I really do like the mechanic of going between child and adult. And I know they couldn't have done this, but I sometimes wish that they had made you be able to switch in the dungeon. But, whatever. I just think that for a dungeon that could have been oh, this is Ganondorf, this is some history on him, I feel like they didn't do that much. Now, of course, you've got Kotake and Kumone, or however you pronounce it, and yeah, they're technically lore for him, but I don't know, it's really disappointing to see that this Gerudo temple is just kinda, there's nothing interesting past, and more, there's nothing more interesting past that they knew the Hero of Time was going to show up, which is kind of weird if you think about it, but whatever. But I think it's just probably the same feelings I have for Water Temple. It's just kinda decent. It's fun at times, for sure. You have every item in the game by the end of this dungeon, which, just immediately gives you a lot of options. But, I don't know. It's not as fun as I would hope. And for the last dungeon, because Ganon's Tower isn't on this list, or a dungeon, it's Trials. If it was on this list, it would probably be up below Bottom of the Well. But, I don't know, it's pretty mid in my opinion. I know it's a bit of a hot take, but whatever. Now, you might be surprised to see that Dodongo's Cavern is this high on the list. And I would have been shocked at myself, too, if I had made this list about 2 years ago. But I mentioned earlier that I'm a big fan of randomizers, right? And I'm taking that into consideration when I rank these. And, oh boy, do I love going through DC as Link. Adult Link. Yeah, of course you go through as Link. What am I talking about? But I love going through this dungeon as Adult Link and just cheating my way through, making jumps you're not supposed to. It's my favorite thing to do in this dungeon. It's a lot of fun. If you do this as child, it's pretty mid, but because you can do this as adult, and it's even encouraged, because you have to get like a Skulltula or whatever, or like 3 of them or something, I don't know. I know there's at least 2 you have to go back for as adult, but I think that encouragement and the fact that you do it in randomizers a lot, I just love this dungeon to cheat through it. I love cheating. I'll say the aesthetic's pretty boring. I mean, it's like a big dragon or dinosaur cave, which, I mean, would be kind of cool if they did it like a modern day, but they just kind of put like a bunch of tiny lizards and then some bigger lizards in it, and it was all right. But my main love for this dungeon is the fact that you can cheat through it if you play a randomizer, and even as in the base game. I think it's the strongest of the child dungeons. Now, for this one, I think I'll have to defend myself quite a bit. I like Ice Cavern. I don't think the ice physics are that bad in this game, except maybe the hopping to enter Ice Cavern, but, you know, whatever. But I think this dungeon's fun. I think it's simple, short, and sweet. It introduces blue fire, which you're never going to use again. And I think that partially I do love this because randomizers introduce blue fire arrows, which makes this like super easy to clear, which is fun. But playing for the footage for the video, I beat this with 1 bottle, and if you just go for what you need, like I did, you only need to get 3 bottles worth of fire, and it's not that bad with just 1. It's pretty simple, honestly. I think that if you went for everything, yeah, it'd kind of suck a little, but I still think it wouldn't be the worst. I'd go through it with at least 2 if you're going for everything, but that's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about the dungeon, and it's pretty good. I like it. There's a little mini boss at the end. Mini bosses, generous. The Wolfos is pretty easy to kill, and I like that you actually get a key item here instead of like just the dungeons. I miss that. I liked that you could just find other items just nowhere like specifically important. Like it's just a cave that you went in, Cavern, I guess, and I like that. I don't really like how short it is, actually. Well, no, I do like how short it is. I just wish there was like a room or 2 more of like significance, not just like a dead end with like a chest, I guess. No, I would like 1 or 2 rooms more of significance, but as is, I think it's a pretty passable dungeon, and better than these other 2 in this tier, because I just really enjoyed Ice Cavern. I don't know why. I like icy dungeons. Now, I have a very hate-love, it's love-hate, I have a very hate-love relationship with the Fire Temple, because anytime I think about it, I hate this dungeon, because I don't know why. I just think it's like the most boring, awful dungeon ever made by Nintendo. But when I'm playing through it, it's pretty fun. It's like it's not hard, but I feel like I'm actually like mentally challenged in this children's game, which is probably concerning, but I feel like I actually like mentally like trying in this dungeon, and I like that. I think that the aesthetic, like a temple in like the middle of a volcano, is kind of sick. And Favalgia isn't on this list, but this is probably one of 2 instances where I'm gonna mention something like, well, like a cutscene in this. But I really like that you see Darunia going into the dungeon, or well, not the dungeon, the boss room. And I really love that he calls you his brother, and he trusts you enough to save his people, like you did before. And I don't know why, but for some reason, seeing that in this game, where I usually never like get to see the cutscenes, because, you know, I turn them off. But seeing that, I was just kind of taken aback. Like, huh, this is like the tone here is pretty serious. You have to save a civilization, pretty much. And the only one who can do anything about it, or the only one free, really, is trusting you because you're his brother in arms. And I don't know why, but that's just very nice. A very nice theme there. So yeah, I like this temple. But thinking about it, I think it would probably be like a C tier, but in my mind, or actually being objective to how I was feeling when I was playing, it's pretty good. Pretty fucking good. So now it's a 1v1 for Shadow Temple and Forest Temple to take the win, and unfortunately, Shadow Temple is taking second place because it's not the best. Now, that does not mean that this dungeon is bad by any means, because Shadow Temple is amazing. I don't know how it got in this game. Everyone knows that this temple's a little mature for children to be looking at, with the corpses littering the walls and floors, but looking past its theming being like the torture grounds of the royal family, I think that it's pretty challenging if you don't know what you're doing. If you do, you can still die. I think I died twice here because I may have been getting a little impatient, but I do think that this temple is very good. I don't really have anything to add to it though, because like, you like Shadow Temple because you know you do. And I'm assuming you all have played. Anybody watching this has seen or played Zelda at least. It's hard to say. Just the vibe within the temple, the music. It's just so good. And it really builds up this feeling that I don't know what the feeling is. I can't describe it. It's just no, not eerie. That's the Forest Temple. Just dreadful, maybe? I'm not sure. But I think it's an amazing temple that would be number one for its, just good dungeon design, but also just, I don't know what to say. I can't describe it, but Forest Temple's just better, sorry. The most vanilla take in the world. How unique, Laszlo? Well, yes. I do want to add something unique to this video, besides just saying what I like. Because that's basically what I've been doing. So I would like to point your attention to the Sacred Meadow, where you go through this little maze with the Moblin guards guarding El Temple. And I've never seen anyone point it out, but it feels kind of like a moat of a castle. Not exactly, because I guess there's water, but I think you know what I mean. It's just like having like actual guards outside of like a castle, kind of like Hyrule Castle. If they, killed you on sight. Police force, anyway. I don't know. I really like that detail. I only thought about it this playthrough, which surprises me. I'm maturing, actually, like having unique thoughts, crazy. But I really do like that little detail I've never even thought of before. But anyway, looking into the dungeon, it feels more like a manor than a temple or a castle, which kind of gives me Snow Peak Ruins vibes, because that's just a big mansion too, and I feel a little, not a little, I feel a strong bit of similarity between the two of those. Ignore the fact that they're different themes and all of that, but I do feel similar like design choices to like emulate a mansion or a mansion. And then, like I said earlier, this temple is just very eerie, I think. I think the music does a lot to do that, as well as just like the inside feeling very oppressive, but almost impish, I guess. But the music really does do a lot for this area. I've been playing the actual like dungeon theme in the background the entire time for each dungeon I've talked about. This one's the best one in my opinion, by far. I think everybody agrees with that, like a notion. And the Force Temple has that level of like just clean dungeon design that the Shadow Temple has. Like it has that indescribable something, like that X factor that you can't quite like put your like you can't like pin it down what makes it so good exactly. But I think the Force Temple does that tenfold over the Shadow Temple. And I feel kind of like copping out because I can't give you the answer, but I don't know why I like it so much more. It's just, I don't know. It's just something magical about this temple. The first adult temple, you get the best item in the game, the hook shot. It's just, I don't know. And the bow. If I included Phantom Ganon, I could give you a little more, but, you know, other temple, or other video tier list. But, I don't know. I just think that there's something I can't pin down, like I said, about this temple. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me this week. Sorry I'm being kind of quiet. I'm recording pretty early in the morning, and I don't want to wake up my roommates, so I'm being a little quieter today. Next week is going to be a Hades 2 video, or a JJK video that I've been promising for weeks now, but I haven't made. But I've been thinking about the ending a lot more recently, and I really want to talk about it. And if I do that first, I'd have more time to polish the Hades 2 video, which is probably gonna be like 40 minutes. So, you know, be happy for that. If you like Hades, of course. If you don't, then I don't know, just cope. But I think that's everything I have for you today. Do all the YouTuber stuff, like sub, whatever. I keep forgetting to mention this, but if you are one of the people that really enjoys the full vlogs, I'm waiting on new videos to release. I know that the terminal came out. I can't figure it out. There's I can't even open it. It gives me like some command error, whatever. I emailed the email on their community tab. I haven't heard anything back, but I'm bad at checking my email too, so hit it real. But if something big comes out for that before or in between these next 2 weeks, that will be made first, because I'm still passionate about that. But yeah, that's everything I have for you this week. See ya.